Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Live to Be Well. I'm Dr. Kim Logan-Nowlin. Listen, it's been cold in Detroit and throughout New York and down in Huntsville, Alabama, where Kenny Anderson is, and we've got some cold weather just coming on in from all parts. But you know what? Stay warm, stay protected. And you know what's interesting? This week, we're going to be getting 50 to 60-degree weather in Detroit. That's amazing. So, but don't take your coats off, keep your scarves on, stay warm because that's pneumonia weather. Listen, let a friend know, let them know, text them, friend them, forward this link, and let them know that Dr. Kim is on the air, Live to Be Well. You all have been phenomenal with the question that we sent out, and we want to say again, welcome to everyone. We've been talking about, with the issues of black men being able to extend themselves, to be able to have a safe place. And it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to cry. I've been talking to a lot of men this week about, their growth, number one, with God, their growth as an individual, understanding who they are. I want to recommend, and I'm going to jump ahead and give you a solution ahead of the schedule. Make a need list. Make a need list of what you need for you. Because before you can meet the needs of someone else, you need to be able to meet the need for yourself. And a lot of times, that people don't know what they need. I don't know what I need. I don't know how to express that. I don't know how to tell that. Or I'm not living in my real truth. Someone asked me yesterday, a male, do I have trust issues? Went through a bad divorce, and how do I trust women again after I was blindsided and betrayed? It's something that you're going to have to put on your need list. How do I begin to trust? Well, let's get right into the broadcast with Dr. Kim. The question is, why do people make excuses for not being able to change instead of making it happen? Let me read that again. Why do people make excuses for not being able to change instead of making it happen? Because I don't want to live with excuses. I want to progress, move forward. And I'm not even making a resolution and all this New Year's and making this list. I'm gonna keep striving in what I'm doing to be the best that I can be. So tonight we're going to talk about intentional change. Why is it important? How do we change? We're going to give you some real practical tips how to help you to change, and then how to make those things, make sense. Because somebody says, well, I need courage. I need that I just don't have that anymore to change. I just don't feel motivated. I'm not excited about the change. But it's easier for me to just stay stuck. It's easy for me just to stay where I am. No, it's not. It's going to take work. And you looking at someone who's put in a lot of work to make the necessary changes. But guess what? I have to make changes every day for myself. Every day. So your thoughts. Why do people make excuses for not being able to change instead of making it happen? Listen, I'm going to bring in my dear friend Kenny Anderson, then I'm going to bring in Adrian Davis. Then we're going to go to your responses because I want to read some of those responses. So, Kenny, welcome back. It's so good to have my dear friend to come back with me. And we're going to bring him in out of the backstage, and we're going to talk with him and be able to look at what's important. And as an African American man, how do men make changes? How do men stick with it? And how do they, because we want to be able to trust men. We want to be able to trust men. And men need to be able to trust one another. Okay. Kenny, you're married, and I was married at one time and wanted to be able to, trust his words. So welcome back, Kenny Anderson. I just love you. You 2 weeks in the row. You know what I'm saying? And then we're gonna bring in Adrian Davis shortly. So
Yep.
what do you think about this question tonight? Why do people make excuses for not being able to change instead of making it happen?
Well, listen, I must be a praying man because I landed on your platform for the second week in a row. And I feel so honored to have been invited back I know we have a decades long friendship, but it's one of those things that I know neither you or I have ever taken for granted, and
Mm-mm,
that we both have found ways to invest in each other's personal lives and
mm-mm,
professional lives. And I just want to publicly thank you for the work that you've done for so long, investing in people and really putting your best foot forward
mm-mm.
consistently, time and time again. Thank you for everything that you do. And just thank you for the invitation to return this week.
Well, listen, this is not the end, my friend, because your wisdom, your knowledge, who you are, I highly respect you. And you have given me a platform, in the Genesee County area in Huntsville. And you have, been such a blessing to so many of my books. I've got another one coming out, Kenny. I need your input on it. And, we have a connection. We have such a bond. And I love you dearly, but I love who you represent. And I was looking at your birthday pictures. I got to talk about that for a minute. You was at, I played the clarinet, I played woodwind, and you played the sax. Okay, and I was looking at your pictures. I said, you better go. You were out cold. That's right. Dr. Kim can say out cold. Okay, and you was with your hat on, and you were really just grooving with yourself. You didn't need anybody's permission. You were not apologizing for being where you are and the stage in your life where you are.
Yeah. Listen, the word is gratitude. I
Mm,
am so grateful for being where I am and having had the opportunity to have experienced the journey I've had. I know each and every one of us who have the privilege of life and the blessing of life have a unique purpose for being here.
mm,
And I just want to say that I'm just so grateful that I have chosen to, and this is a choice. This is, I think, ties into a lot about what we're going to talk about tonight. I've chosen to seek God's will for my life and to walk within his purpose. As a consequence of that, I believe that he's blessed me and has honored me. And as a consequence of that, I want to continually turn that back over into other people's lives as well.
mm,
I live for other people.
mm,
And you said something really important earlier about how it's so important to take care of ourselves first. And so let me use a short qualifier here just so I can help people understand where I'm going with this. When I say I live for other people, it's because I do spend intentional time understanding who I am, introspectively understanding myself. And to the point of understanding where we begin to make changes, that's exactly where it needs to begin. We can't just do something without understanding something. And I think that's a fundamental mistake a lot of people make. They want to make changes, they want to move forward into a different season in their life, but they really haven't spent sufficient time understanding the space in which they're in at this moment. And so for me, it really begins with a moment of introspection, looking inside of ourselves, taking an inventory of what our resources are, our skill sets are, our network is, being able to understand something about those things in meaningful ways that can inform us in ways that can help us line ourselves up to move on to the next thing. This
mm,
is where that process all begins, because I like to share with people that oftentimes when we start asking questions about life, we get so far ahead of the process because we're ready to answer the question without understanding the question. And so a lot of us, whether it's relationships, whether it's career choices, whether it's financial matters, academic issues, whatever it might be, sometimes we find ourselves in situations as no fault of someone else, but really it's a fault of ourselves. And so the second part for me is once we do introspection, we have to be honest about what we see and what we find. And we have to be honest about what we understand about things so that we can make the best, most informed, most productive
mm.
decision about how we move forward.
I like that, being informed to be productive. And one of my key words is proactive. I want to constantly be proactive. So I can't let you into where my personal space is and fix me unless I'm trying to fix and I know how to fix myself. Because when you get in relationships, well, what's wrong? I don't know. What's going on? I don't know. Why are you acting that way? I don't know. Okay. Well, how do I help you? I don't know.
Hmm.
And it's very frustrating for the person who is married to that person or involved with that person or a friendship,
Yeah.
a parent, a relative, relationships overall. We need to be able to understand, and children need to have that foundation of basic communication to communicate their needs. So that comes from having parents who can communicate their needs and not arguing and fighting and battling. So what happens is the children pick up those same behavior skills. That's
Yeah.
how they work out their problems. And in
Yeah.
our society today, we here in Detroit, there was two men working in a plant. They got into an argument over some products in the plant, and when they got off work, one man went to his car, got a gun, and shot the other man and killed him.
Mm,
Killed
mm,
him
mm.
over something that they don't even own. But this is how we communicate our actions. So
Yeah.
we need, we need to look at how we are looking at the change in our society. And it's going to get worse. We know that as Christians, we know it's going to get a lot worse before it gets a lot better. But
Yeah.
collectively, we can take a stand like what you're doing, what I'm doing. We come together, what Adrian Davis is doing, ML6. We're trying to have a platform to give people a different way of doing things. You're going to say something, Ken?
Yeah, I was just going to say one of the most liberating things, and I love to talk about these kinds of things, especially at this time of year, this season of transition, as people kind of think about the year that was and they look forward to the year that will be, and every possibility that might exist in the context of this new beginning, this new opportunity. The difference between January 1st and December 31st is 24 hours. So when we start talking about making changes, there's nothing magical about the transition from one year to the next because you're dealing with a 24-hour period of time. It's the same 24-hour period of time that you have every single day, whether it's 365 days a year or whether it's a leap year. It's the same 24-hour period. So one of my favorite statements, and I don't remember who said it, some probably multiple people have said it over
Mm,
time,
mm,
but we change by choice, not by chance.
mm,
The way we change is very strategic. It just doesn't, we don't wake up one morning and suddenly we're different as a consequence of our good night's sleep.
mhm,
Um, or because we decided to wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and have devotion. Those are steps in the process of improvement. But it happens because we've made a choice to be different. We've made a choice to be better. We've made a choice to do things in ways that we didn't do them before, or we make choices to do things in ways that are going to help us experience a better quality of life. And so the most powerful thing that we all have, and this is scriptural, this is biblical, this is something that we've known within the context of our faith for so many years. Our choices are the most powerful thing that we have in our life. And in reality, no one can control our choices except for us. No one can be accountable for our choices except for us. It's easy to point the blame or point the finger at someone else and blame someone else for the mistakes that we make. Each of us has to condition ourselves to hold ourselves accountable for the choices that we make, as well as the changes that we make about our behavior, so that we can celebrate our successes and that we can evaluate our failures. There's nothing wrong with failing except that we don't understand the failure
come on.
as an opportunity to make an adjustment in our lives. I don't know any perfect people. There's only been one in the history of this world. And so every single person has the capacity to succeed
Mhm,
equally
mhm.
as they have the chance to fail.
That's
And
right.
so we should be very mindful about what we put the focus on. This whole
Mhm,
issue of mindfulness, in fact, and being present in the moment and being available for not just those around us, but for our own abilities to transcend the circumstances of our own lives and experiences. We have to be able to be available for our own selves to say, you know what? There might be a different way to do something. There might be a better way to improve the quality of my life through my diet, through my exercise, through my study, through my personal devotion, through my relationships with other people, through my work experiences. There may be a different way to do those things. And oh, by the way, I'm
mhm,
responsible for those things. And
mhm,
so,
mhm.
what are those things that I need to embrace in order to make that change. People will feel so much more empowered in life. We're not puppets. There are no strings attached to any of us where we're doing what people want us to do. We can easily blame people for our circumstances, but we have the power to make choices to change, and change comes by choice, not by chance.
You know, I was listening to Mary J. Blige and Janet Jackson one day. They were working out in the gym and they were getting ready for their concerts. Now, these women in their 50s, and Mary J. Blige said, "Don't be angry at me because I have a body or I'm working out." And Janet Jackson said the same thing. She said, because by choice, we do this by choice. So this is, we have a choice to do what we need to do because it's not going to just happen. Kenny, you and I made a choice to pursue our education. We came to Oakwood, with a little of nothing, and we made it, and even pursuing these programs that we do. You had second chance. How many years now?
33 years.
33 years was, second chance. And the relationships that you have built and maintained a character of goodness and a reputation of quality and care, integrity, overall integrity. So again, looking at what we need to do to bring about change. We're talking about intentional behavior change. And my special guest is Kenny Anderson from Huntsville, Alabama. Kenny, you all got snow down there, don't you?
Well, we got a little dusting. It's all relative. The flurries fell for about an hour or so, and of course, people got really excited. But as one of my friends noted, it wasn't even enough to make a snow angel or a snowman or snow woman. So,
okay,
not much to talk about. It's all gone now.
I'm so sorry. You all didn't get enough to do all that. Okay,
right.
Listen, we want to bring in Adrian Davis, and then we're going to go to some of the responses because Kenny, it blew up today on social media. All right. So, we want to welcome back Adrian Davis from Los Angeles, California. Hello there, my son. How are you, dear?
I'm good. How are you?
Listen, we got something going on here. You know what I'm saying? We're getting ready for October. We're getting ready for our men's conference. I'm already putting together some things, getting ready to hit the pavement to get ready for this men's conference in October of 2023. And we're going to tell you more about this. So you're going to be seeing Kenny Anderson, Adrian Davis a lot on Live to Be Well because they're going to be our two keynote speakers. They're going to be the men that's going to be leading out in our symposiums. They're going to be the men that's going to help us take it to the next level. And then I'm going to quietly bow out. I'll be back out at the registration table because I won't be allowed inside because it's a man thing, okay? So I know my place. But they're coming to Detroit to make sure that we have a place in order for men to come to. And now you've been asking Dr. Kim for this. So here it comes. Our first Live to Be Well men's conference. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to say no. It's okay to feel. And these two great men are going to bring it together for us. So, Adrian, we're talking about change. We're going into the new year, and Brother Kenny talked about it's just 24 hours. It's a continuum, So the question is, why is it so difficult for people to make the necessary changes and then do something about it? I want to make change, but I don't know how to make it happen. Go ahead, Adrian.
Well, I think one of the things I think we make change hard on ourselves because we automatically think about who is going to accept our change. So we, and I just speak for myself, like as God changes you, as God changes me, it's like, we start to think, well, are they going to believe that I've changed? Are, people from the past, are they going to accept the fact that I'm different now? Are they going to believe that I'm different? And here's the thing, that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to just change. And I think that change, like Kenny Anderson said, it's a 24-hour process, right? We have 24 hours in a day. It starts with, I tell people this, man, it starts with a made up mind. Nothing beats a made up mind. Once our mind is made up, you can't, it's like, you can't undo it. Once your mind is made up on something, once you've decided, hey, I'm going to operate different, I'm going to change. And the challenging part for a lot of us is that change is on the backside of pain. So, when something hurts us enough, then we're like, you know what? Oh, I got to switch this up. I got to change. And a lot of times that pain is a caveat for us to change. But a lot of times we're hesitant because we're always factoring in who's going to believe this change, who's going to accept this different me, who's going to, believe in, the metamorphosis of my life. And that's not for us to think about. That's not for us to weigh in on. Our job is to just do the work and then stay the course daily. And I think also too, one of our downfalls is that we don't have enough patience with ourselves. Mm-hmm. We give it to everybody else. We help everybody else. We will, tell everybody else that they can change, that God is a God of change and he's patient with them and there's grace, but we have a hard time receiving that for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because we automatically know the truth about what we've done, where we've been, the things that we've experienced. And so we know the whole gamut of our journey, but we have to be able to receive, I believe, the first point to change is us believing that we serve a God that can change us. If we don't believe that, then change is going to be a figment of our imagination, or it's going to be just a word or a phrase that we say that sounds cute or sounds good. But in order for us to really believe in transformation and change, we must first believe in God and that God can do it. We see it with Paul to Saul. We see it with Peter. We see it all throughout the Bible of journeys of change and navigating through different identity structures. And so I think that's the first thing. Honestly, I don't want to make it super spiritual, but then also we got to be honest. Our culture hates change. We hate when people change. We hate when and again, I said this last week. If y'all don't like what I say, you can email me. Don't email Dr. Kim. But but what's crazy is that in our society, it's more acceptable to change gender than it is to change who you've been in the past. Like, if I say, hey, I don't identify as that anymore, I want to change, how you address me, people adapt to that. If I say, hey, I was thinking from a poverty mindset last year and I was barely making it, or, hey, I don't treat people the same way I used to, things have changed. People will hold you to that more than they hold you to changing even your sexuality. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of times we just weigh in on people's perception of our change. I think that's what holds us to an older version of us, is that we always weigh into what are people going to think? How are people going to accept this? How are people going to receive this? And it hinders us from making that change and staying committed to that change.
Kenny, what do you think about that?
Oh, that's a word of liberation right there. That should free at least 400 or 500 people tonight, because that is a powerful word of liberation. We are so shackled by the opinions of others.
Yes, sir.
That sometimes we are paralyzed in our ability to experience transformation that is provided for us. And the journey to transformation begins with something, as AD said, in your mind. Where your mind is transformed. Now, nobody owns your mind except for you unless you give it over to someone else.
Yes,
so
sir.
If I say in my mind that I choose to change, it should matter little about what other people think about that change. And here's the challenge in that thing, because Pastor AD nailed this. I mean, wow, the spirit of liberation is upon us today, folks.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
serious about this. The fact that people are experiencing life in whatever ways they're experiencing life, and people are observing them and judging them. A person decides to change, and the people that are watching them and monitoring them now judge the validity or the merit of the change. Oh man, they've been doing this for so long. How can that be real? How can that be true? Oh man, they're just saying that. They're just putting that on for other people. And what people will do is, instead of embracing the power of the transition, they'll get locked down and paralyzed by the critique and the judgment of others.
Yes, sir.
And there's so much pain in that, because then the mind kicks in and the mind starts doubting. The mind starts saying, well, wait a minute. I know I felt like I could change, but now people are saying I can't, so can I really change? And we are now relinquishing the power and the authority that's been given to us to make the transformation to other people who care little about who we are in the first place. Pastor gave a word right there. I'm just affirming everything he said.
That's the key, Kenny, because like people, they don't really care, you know, like, and I think we give people so much power that have not invested not one thing in us, that have not, you know, gave us any words of affirmation along the journey, have not sown a seed, have not done anything. All they've been negative towards us without us even knowing. And we care more about their opinion about us than even the people that have been on the journey with us, the people that held our hand along the journey, the people that's been there nonstop. And we will hold the opinions of people that don't even matter, that don't even, you know, that have done nothing for us. We will hold their opinion higher than the people that have been there for us, you know, all, you know, this whole time. And it's crazy because I've watched it in my own life, you know, Kenny. I'm not saying something that, you know, I've perfected. I'm saying this from a place of experience where I have listened to the critiques of the crowd, and instead of listening to the corner, like I used to box. Boxing is my favorite sport. It's my number one sport. I watch all types of boxing. And how I like to draw this analogy is that in your corner, you have your team that you have been training with for months, preparing for this fight. You have your coach, you have your cut man, you have your ice pack man, you have your mouth, you have a person that comes and gets your mouth guard out. That's your corner. They've been with you along the journey. And woe unto us that silence our corner to hear the advice of the crowd. And that's what we've been doing. Like when it comes to our change, what we'll do is that we will silence the corner. They've been with us the whole time. They know our blind spots. They know our great, you know, our tools of our greatness, how great we are, what we can do well. But we stop listening to them because the crowd is so much louder. And it's not that they're louder because the corner is closer in proximity, but we will overlook the corner to adhere to the crowd. And that's going to hinder our change because the crowd is a chameleon. The crowd will continue to change their opinion based upon each round. You know, one round they saying block, the next round they saying throw the right hand, the next round they saying throw the uppercut. They don't know. They're not even in the fight. they're not even invested. But we will we'll continue to change up per round based upon the crowd. And it's like, no, stick to your game plan. Stick to the course. Stick to what you know. And I think that's the thing of change. We have to stick to what our corner, what our people that are invested. And also, I say this, even in the moments where like even our corner can have our best interest at heart, even your corner can have your best interest at heart, but also understand that even your corner has a figment of what, or a fraction, should I say, a fraction of what God wants to do in your life. So even your corner, although they love you, although they're supporting of you, they only have a fraction of what God all wants to do with you. So even their perspective of you is going to be skewed. So you have to open up your ears to God more than even you open up your ears to your corner. And so I think that hinders us, man, so much. I know it has hindered me. So, you know, you talk about this liberation, it's liberating me to even talk about it because I've been there for years, man, you know, pastoring a church, trying to do what everybody else wanted me to do, not from the sense of pastoring, but just from the sense of leading, how I should lead, you know, the way I should do things. And you just become a prisoner to that. And I think that as men, what we have to do is that we have to decide what, you know, and stand on what God is telling us to do with our lives and not be swayed based upon the opinions of the crowd.
You know, there's a really famous saying that basically says, and I'll paraphrase it, it says, stop letting people pay rent in your head. Give them an eviction notice
immediately.
Yes, sir. Now, I want to affirm something that Pastor AD is doing right here.
Mm-hmm.
This brother's being very transparent. And one of the points of transparency I want to note is this. A lot of people hear us talking tonight. They'll get all gassed and inspired and say, I'm going to go run through this wall over here. This is not an intellectual conversation that we're having right here. This is a conversation based on what we have experienced.
Yes, sir.
And those experiences are real. That means that they affect our hearts just like they affect our minds. We're human beings first.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens in our experiences is real. There's nothing imaginary about those things. There's nothing contrived about those things. These are real experiences that impact our lives. So none of us are suggesting that this is just an automatic moment of revelation and you're now going to be free from something. This goes back to what I was saying earlier about introspectively trying to understand our lives and seek the answers that we need to get, to seek the understanding that we need to get. If you believe these things are happening, you need to ask yourself some questions. You need to maybe withdraw from the crowd for a moment and from that corner and have a little quiet time.
That's it.
And be able to firmly assess what's going on in that process so that you can better understand how to respond to the situation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know what? Listen. I want to just say, you know what? This is so phenomenal. Now, you're getting all this amazing wisdom from these two men and what they're bringing to the table. Now, let me just say what I just got out of that. Stop being a placeholder. Stop being a placeholder for other people and look at how you need to set the table. See, I want to be the one at the head of the table. You know, I remember how my husband used to sit at the head of the table and I was sitting next to him, you know, and the girls would sit around on the other side. But I knew my place. And so therefore, stop putting yourself in a situation that you feel that you don't deserve to change. You can change. And as Pastor AD said, with God's help, we can all change and be better. These are some things I want to just say. There are two major techniques I use in counseling. I use directive counseling and non-directive counseling. Well, what do you mean, Dr. Kim? Sometimes I've got to be really direct in my approach with counseling, with cognitive behavior therapy. I deal with all type focus-centered therapy. I have to deal with family therapy, group therapy, individual therapy, substance abuse therapy, treatment plans. I have to come up with different goals and objectives. But the most important thing that I do is I'm self-monitoring the behavior. I'm setting up a baseline, and I know that Pastor AD and Kenny, you know what I'm talking about. When we look at a baseline, where we're starting and where we're going to finish, in order to make the necessary changes, you know, we got to be liberated. We got to be willing to step outside the box, come outside of your comfort zone and look at where you are and decide where you want to be, you know, and stop putting these unrealistic expectations on your life. By March 2023, I'm going to have this done. I'm going to just start putting things in place so that you will be able to do this. Now, listen, for self-monitoring of behavior, you know, going back to what we talked about last week, we need a community, social support. I did a major report last night. I was up to 4 a.m. this morning. And this young man, 21 years of age, he fell asleep at the wheel and he wanted to die. But let me tell you why he wanted to die. Okay, I'm going to be very transparent. He went to a gas station and he saw a woman. The woman was very beautiful. Now, I'm working with this young man about making necessary changes. And he feels that he can, Dr. Logan, you know, a little marijuana not going to hurt me. A little, you know, sex not going to hurt me. A little this drinking not going to hurt me. He went and he saw the woman at the gas station. The woman called him over to the car. And so he started having sex. The woman had oral sex with him. So when he got ready, I want to see your faces. Put Pastor AD and Kenny back up for me for a minute. When he went to go have sex with the woman, he stopped him and said, "You do know I'm a man." That thing tore my patient up. 21-year-old baby. 2 weeks later, crying. He hates himself. He can't get clean enough.
Mm.
He falls asleep at the wheel. He wraps himself around a tree. He wakes up. He's in the hospital.
Mm.
All he can say is, let me die. Just let me die. From that experience, now it's taken me almost 8, 9 months to get him to a place. Now he has surrendered. After 4 years of counseling him, I surrendered to Jesus. I'm done with the marijuana. I'm done with the alcohol. I want a nice church girl, but I'm done with all this crazy stuff. And I looked at him and I said to him, and I was doing his report last night, and it brought tears to my eyes how far he's allowed God to bring him. But I had to do directive counseling, not non-directive. I had to be direct with him because he wanted to take his life. And we had to put him in a psychiatric hospital for about 15 days because he was going to take his life. So I had to move quickly. So I say all this to say is I had to assess him. I had to look at what his need was in order to help him to make the necessary changes. We are conduits in this. We are change agents here. And this is why I've brought these two great men to you. People, let me tell you something. These individuals, I have sat at the feet of Pastor Adrian Davis. I remember the first time I heard him speak when I came to Huntsville. And I'm always back and forth to Huntsville. But, I had to leave my baby there, and my baby was always protected and surrounded. Kenny, then me, Pastor AD, and, the others. And then my other baby was there. And so when I heard him speak, I said, I told my husband, I said, he Marvin Gaye. He said, he's wise beyond his years. I said, oh yes, he has something. So Pastor AD, how have you made and what changes have you made? I want to go personal here. And then Kenny, what changes have you made as a man to be where you are today? Let's just pull back some layers here, okay? All right, come on.
I think for one, you talk about that surrenderance to God. I think that a lot of men, we definitely battle with that. For me, how I've made and our changes that I've made to be able to hear from God. For one of the changes that I made, and this is a very simple change, is that I realized that there is no part of my story that I should shun away from talking about. And because anything that has happened to me has also happened for me, and it's a part of my narrative and part of my story. And I think a lot of times we try to cover up because we want us to look a certain type of way. We want us to come across a certain type of way. We want to come across as perfect, polished, all of these things. But also at the same time, we have to understand that, this is a part of our narrative. This is a part of our story. This is if there was a Bible on your life, even your most difficult times and your most difficult seasons will be documented within that Bible. And that's where majority of people are going to gain their level of encouragement from, is seeing you fall, but also get up. And so for me, the change that I made was stop trying to, paint perfection. I think that we want to come across like we got it all together. And I think that that's great. And especially as public figures, but also at the same time, we have to understand that nobody's perfect. This is the reason why we need the power of God. This is the reason why we need the presence of God. And so if I was perfect, or if I continue to paint myself as perfect, then what type of God would I need? The Bible actually talks about that. He says, I didn't come for those that are well. I came for those that are sick and those that are admittedly sick. And so for me, one of the biggest changes was not trying to come across as a performance-based Christian. I had to come across as my true authentic self and live in my own truth, because I think the reason why we're seeing a rise in suicide rates amongst African-American men is that majority of African-American men are tired of performing. So we've been performing for so long, and we've been doing the dance, and we've been providing, and we've been protecting. But then also there are times where we don't feel protected. There are times where we need to be provided for. There are times where we're going through, and instead of instead of reaching out to our fellow brothers, or instead of reaching out to our mate, or instead of communicating what we feel, what we've done is that we masked that and said, let's just perform. And that was one of the greatest changes that I made, was to embrace the truth of my journey, of my story, and my in and outs. And so the fastest way I believe that you can embrace change is also embrace the narrative and the journey of your story. And don't, I get it. We want to leave out certain things because that's not other people's business. I get that because I think it's a degree of you being selective, but also understand that once we've healed in the area, that becomes a part of our testimony. Testimony is nothing more than telling the story of something that tried to do something to you that did not work. When people stand in court and they say, hey, give a testimony, what they're saying is, I'm about to get up and I'm about to give a testimony that this person tried something, but it didn't work. And so that's what we do. And so I think that being okay with our journey, being okay with our story has allowed me to speak from a place of wisdom. I get that all the time. People are like, man, you're so young, but you're so wise. How is that? And I just tell people, because I'm not afraid to share my story. I'm not afraid to tell you where I went wrong. I'm not afraid to tell you what I should have did better. I'm not afraid to say, yo, I handled this the wrong way, and I probably should have handled this better. And I think it's through that level of admittance that allows wisdom to seep in, because wisdom is nothing more than us applying life application and communicating life application through what we have experienced through life. And I've experienced a lot of life in a short amount of time, but also at the same time, I'm not afraid to communicate what I have experienced. I don't feel the need to perform anymore.
And I think we have to stop holding one another hostage because of our past. We have to stop this.
Well, Dr. Kim, our issue is we love to freeze people. Right? So we'll keep them where they last offended us. We'll keep them where we met them. We'll keep them and so we don't believe that God can unthaw them and allow them to grow. We froze them in our own mind. And one of the things that I tell myself all the time is that even my most hated enemy, even people that I don't think I hate anybody at this stage of my life, but even people that I don't care for, God still loves. And God is changing them. And if I'm changing daily, so is my enemies. So is people that I don't understand. So are people that I don't agree with. They're changing too. And I may not allow them back into my life, but I will not hold them captive to the last version of them that I experienced.
That's what I'm saying. Kenny, changes. That was good. That was good. That's real truth. All right. He said freeze. Yeah. He said they keep you are frozen right where they left you and offended you. You're on froze. Freeze, okay? Like your screen will freeze. Kenny, talk to us about your real truth and your changes.
Yeah, I cannot improve on what Pastor AG just said, but I got to add one more thing because that was so deep. People hold people hostage who they don't even know.
Yes, sir.
And they hold them hostage in the place that they heard they were. They don't know nothing about their life, but yet they expect nothing else from that person except for what they heard about that person being in that spot.
That's
some powerful stuff. Listen, my most significant change in the last 3 years has been my focus on self-care. We are conditioned, especially within the context of faith, that caring for ourselves or paying too much attention to ourselves to the neglect of others is a selfish act. And so consequently, what happens with us is that many of us are saddled by the guilt of not being more involved with others in whatever aspect that might be. That could be family, that could be the community, that could be our houses of worship and our houses of faith. It could be on our workspaces, wherever that might be. So we're saddled by guilt. That guilt ultimately becomes something physical in many people's lives. So now they have ulcers, migraines, and all kinds of other physical deficits as a result of that. When the pandemic hit, I decided that I was going to make self-care my top priority. And little did I know, this is always one of those interesting things in life that I think we should probably, again, spend more time thinking about, because I heard a sermon preached one time. It's called Intersections. I'm sorry. Talk about the crossroads of our lives and the fact that, oftentimes the experiences that we're having today are setting us up to confront something in the future and ultimately begin preparing us for that moment. And so here's the pandemic. Lots of people are getting COVID. Lots of people are dying. There's a brand new thing, worldwide pandemic. We don't know anything about it. Vaccines come out, lots of controversy, lots of stuff like that. And true to my form, typically I worry less about what I cannot fix, and I focus more energy and investment on what I can do. So how I control my diet was extremely important to me. How I exercise was extremely important to me. All of my after 5 appointments dropped off. All of my weekend assignments dropped off. So here I am, work 8 to 5, home. 3 months after the pandemic starts, my mother-in-law gets sick and she moves in with us. My wife is working from home and has been working from home since the pandemic. So now this investment in self-care gives me a chance to refocus my attention on home.
Yeah.
And be able to be available when I need to be available to both her as well as my mother-in-law. And so that led me on this journey of self-care that today has resulted in a 40-pound weight loss, which I celebrate.
Yes.
It has focused, and I was never this big guy anyway, but I
No,
am.
like you always.
Yeah, like you was all that big. Come on now, tell them.
That's it.
Look, I stepped on the stage one day and I was under 150, and I was like, "Yo, I ain't been in that territory in a long time," and feeling good. Approaching, this past September, 65, approaching 65. I'm like, self-care is gonna be number one in my life. I'm going to learn how to say no to people and not feel guilty about it. I'm going to learn how to be fully invested in what's happening at home and not make excuses for anything else or why I might have done that over something else. And so my commitment and investment in self-care has been my primary focus for the last 3 years. And I'm the better for it. It is the most profound and most significant change that I've made in my life. And I am celebrating that every single day because it has made an incredible difference on every aspect of my life.
That is amazing. That's amazing. Listen, I want to go to some of the comments that were sent in to us. Brother Clarence Martin says, "Amen, my brother. Amen." All right. Miss Demetria says, "Amen, amen." You all bringing the word up in here. All right. Listen, we want to thank you all. Come on, keep talking to us here on Live to Be Well. That's what we're about. Live to be well. Again, I tell the story all the time. Brother Al Rogers, my marketing director, who sets everything in place for us, he said, "What do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do?" And that's self-care and not allowing people to hold me hostage. And and I have a big heart. I love my children. That's my soft spot. Pastor AD, that's my soft spot. And I got one who's strong. I got the other one who she just gone. But they're my children, and but God knows we are His children, and things that we do and we act up, He still loves us with the biggest heart. All right, let's look at some of the comments. All right, that were sent to you all. Let me tell you something. They all into you all, okay? What we gonna do here now, okay? We gonna have something going on. We're gonna put everybody out of business. All right, Brother Al, my Live to Be Well, how Live to Be Well came about. These comments. Okay, we ready? He's trying to bring them up. Okay, he's trying to bring it up. He'll bring it up. All right. So while we're waiting on that, let's talk about some of the things that need to be done so that people can change. All right. He can't bring it up on the screen, but I'm gonna go to what I'll do is go to, and I want to read a couple of comments. Okay, can I do that?
Yep.
All right, let's do that. I'll do that. All right. So we had 53 comments today. 53. All right. So the question is, why do people make excuses for not being able to change instead of making it happen? All right. This was Mr. Ennis Woods. Some just prefer the darkness, the sin, the lifestyle, the pleasure, the power, the fame, the control, the money. If they gave an excuse that might they may be lying. They may say what you want to hear so they can continue to do what they want to do openly and secretly prefer. Okay? Um, they don't want to take ownership for the errors. They don't want to take ownership. Somebody said complacency, being complacent, wanting the outcome but too lazy to put the work in. We could also look as it is redundancy, making the same excuse for the same action and looking for a new outcome, insanity. Thank you, Paige. Derek Williams, it's easier. It requires no effort. Requires
Well,
no effort.
Dr. Kim,
Nina, go
Dr.
ahead.
Kim, Dr. Kim, I want to chime in with what they're saying too, and just give a different perspective. I think a lot of times people also are afraid to change because the changed version of them may not be accepted. The whether we realize it or not, people tend to give help, advice, assistance to the unhealed version of people.
Mm.
So when healing takes place, that means that I may no longer be accepted. I may no longer be, people may not, look to help me. And so I'm actually writing a book right now about every trap that I found myself in, every bad decision was probably connected to my desire to be accepted. Mm. And when there's a void, especially with this father-son void, it kind of creates an innate desire inside of a man that he's looking to be accepted at times. And so sometimes people are slow to change because the new version that they really want to step into, the new version that they really want to be, may not be accepted by the people that have seen them for 30 years, 40 years, operate this one way. And so I think that hinders people with the quick pivot that they really want to do, that they really want to change. They really want to go a different direction with their career. They really want to go a different direction concerning other things, but they're so afraid because they're like, yo, this new version of me may not be accepted. So I'll just rather stay how I am and my brokenness be accepted and my brokenness get help versus the healed version of me that's going to consistently be overlooked, or being the people always joke with me and be like, oh, you the strong friend, and I'm like, no, I'm strong because I have to be. I'm not strong because I always want to be. And so at times where you want to be vulnerable in those spaces, you're like, yo, that vulnerability aspect of me may not be accepted. So yet, what am I going to do? I'm going to show up as a strong version of me every single time. So I think that may be another perspective, because I think we're like, oh, well, they just want this and they just want this. And it's almost sounding from a negative aspect. But sometimes people have a desire to change with inside of their minds. They really have a desire. But then also they're hit with the challenge of, man, if I change, what happens to the illusion of the support that I have? And notice I said illusion, because that's one of the things I had to deal with, is that I was like, man, I'm going to lose people. I'm going to lose friends. And the Lord had to really tell me, those really ain't your people. No way. That's an illusion. That's a mirage. That's like the best version of you, the people that are in your corner during the best version of you. Those are people that you need to keep around. Not the people that flock to your brokenness, because a lot of people flock to your brokenness because they want to, it's a pat on the back for them. Look what I did. They needed me. I was there. Look what they did. Like they called me, they was going through something. They called me and I showed up. I'm always there to support them. People do certain things for braggadocious aspects. And so you really got to check the motives of people. But sometimes people have a strong desire to change. And I say that because I was trapped in that for years. I wanted to change. I wanted to, but I was like, man, like if I do this, people may not understand it. So guess what? I'm going to keep doing this. And it wasn't necessarily anything negative, like, oh, I wanted fame, or I wanted this, or I wanted that. No, it was not that. It's like, these are truly heartfelt desires that I believe God put on the inside of me to help change, culture and help change certain things. But if I'm not going to be accepted as the new version of me, it may hinder me. And now it took me some time. I eventually did it, but also at the same time, I know that a hindrance was not necessarily in a negative aspect. It was more so in the aspect of me not being accepted.
You know what? You see a lot of this on college campuses.
Oh, for
Want
sure.
to be accepted into the fraternity sororities, the things that they will do to be accepted in, the
Oh, yeah.
hating, the mistreatment, the belittling, but I want to be accepted in. And so, therefore, the version of me to walk away is I'm better than that. I will not be disrespected like that. Women and men, and we talked about that. Men do not report, domestic violence because they're embarrassed that they have been abused like this for a long time, and their abuse takes place every 6 seconds. Every 6 seconds. And so therefore, I deserve this. This is the way, I brought this on myself. He hit me because it was my fault. No, there is a problem there. And you've got to find the best version of you and accept that best version, or you may die in that version of his own pain or her own pain, you
Yep.
know. So,
Well, like
you look at that.
we just don't want to, we could be going through domestic violence stuff and we just won't say anything. I know plenty of men that are going through domestic emotional abuse, verbal, from women, saying all types of things, killing their character to their face, dogging them, disrespecting them, and then still expecting them to provide financially after you
Mm,
have killed that man and now his home is a war zone. And then this man is afraid to say, yo, I'm being verbally abused. I'm being physically hit, but I can't put my hands on her, because if I put my hands on her, I'm going to jail,
mm,
and we don't even, because I'm so passionate about that because I've been in situations where, one bad thing from me will end me in jail. And I called the police. I talked to the police. The police did absolutely
mm,
nothing.
mm,
Police said, well, they said she's not a threat to you.
Hmm.
That's exactly what the police told me. She's not a threat to you. And
Hmm.
I'm saying, no, she's a threat to keep pushing me and pushing me out of my character. Then if I do something, y'all gonna put me in jail, and then she'll still be out. And she has a record of doing this. She's been in jail for doing this.
Hmm.
So my thing is, why does it have to get to a point of physical altercation before it arises? But because we want to look a certain type of way, and because we don't want to be perceived as weak, and because we don't want to be perceived as less than, we would deal with it. We'll suck it up. We'll say, you know what, it'll be all right. I don't want to come across like that. And we got so many men that are literally, and I literally was talking to a man 2 days ago, Christmas, that got into his mate, physically lay hands on him, and he was like, "Man, this been going on for years, and I think the only way out of this, man, is if I kill myself."
Hmm.
Like, he was like, nobody's taking me serious.
Hmm.
mm,
She shows up and she's smiling, and they think, oh, how, man, she couldn't do that. She couldn't do that. She wouldn't dare. He was like, man, I'd have been hit with stuff, been talked to all kind of crazy. And he was like, man, but something about me still finds myself, because I left, she stalked me, found me, and then I found myself right back into the situation. And he's like, I don't see no out. So what is his decision? His decision was like, yo, I'm gonna commit suicide. Like, I don't think, and I don't think that that's a conversation that, we've talked about enough. But at the end of the day, I think it's our level of wanting to be accepted, and also what society accepts of us as quote unquote men. And we gauge now manhood based upon how much BS we're willing to tolerate.
mm. You
That's how
know,
we gauge manhood.
it's
Like, oh, you're a man by how much you tolerate. You're a man by how strong you are. Wait a
mm,
minute. When did manhood become about the strength to tolerate foolishness?
mhm, mhm,
I don't think that that's what it is, but I think that that's what society has made it be.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Kenny?
Yeah. Another angle on this I thought was very important, that Pastor AD referenced this whole notion of having the ability to contemplate people's motives for what they want to do in these particular situations. People will.
Okay, we froze here. Okay, we froze for a second. We'll bring Kenny back.
Okay.
Okay, we'll bring him back. We talked about, change is hard on many levels, not least of which is on yourself. Lying is easier. Window Phipps, thank you. Brandon, human beings are human beings. We love our comfort zone. That is really true. It's very hard to bring people out of their own comfort zone. Um, Charisse, they feel like they tried everything or they don't believe that they have a choice. There's always a choice. Looking for approval from others, which Pastor AD talked about, Rochelle, looking for that acceptance. Clarence Martin, the key is commitment to affect changes. You've got to commit to your changes. Jennifer Jones, they are just not ready. They enjoy the current, or they are not comfortable with the new and the effort it will demand. You are right, Jennifer. Um, Philip Willis, Pastor Philip Willis, the excuses are built in. They fall into the track most ride with downstream. Downstream. LaShawn, some people are in denial and don't want to face themselves. Sandra Troop, maybe they need a therapist, and I would definitely agree with that. Ennis Woods came back and said this is just one of the many reasons that we talked about earlier that some people prefer darkness. Now, Beverly Robinson, she said, Dr. Kim, I have to approach your essential question from a different angle. From the angle of I have behaviors and issues that have caused me to dig in and not change. Change is certainly a process for me and for so many others. She said, what galls me is when they're oh thank you. When there are those who are intent on changing me. And we talked about that earlier, Pastor AD, or observing where and how I should change, but not having the patience, you said that, to acknowledge my frailties. Then the judgment ensures the judgment or judges also need change, but like me, are digging into why their judgment is necessary. So, sis, you know how I typically arrive at a response. You always pose those type of questions. You make us think. Janice Ross, okay? Only will I allow God to change me. He knows what is best for me. Thank you. Hope you understand where I am coming from. God has and will make that change if I allow him to do so. My choice. Going back to choice. Jeanette Nicole, people are afraid of change. Brother Lawrence, they have a limited mindset. They had been developed through trauma, upbringing, environment, and religion. Cognitive dissonance causes them to reject the tools that would help them produce change. Mia, they don't know how to do it and are unaware that they don't know how to do it. Pamela Mitchell, it is a defense mechanism. It's easier to make an excuse than having to own up to who you really are or taking responsibility. Wow. So we heard words of taking responsibility, accountability, being patient with yourself. Don't throw in the towel. Don't give up when the going gets rough. And one of the things I put in my report to that young man is going to be a process, and don't give up on yourself. I went back and looked at my therapy notes on him, and that he was trying to rush the process of the healing. But I told him it's going to take a lot of time to get past that incident at the gas station. It takes time. Adrian and Kenny, it takes time to forgive ourselves and to learn how to forget those things that have hurt us and damaged us, so that we see, if we can let go of those things, then we can bring in some of the new things. We can empty the space to let in the new. But if
Yeah,
we don't, all the old will block all the new that God has for us.
for sure. For sure. I do think that receiving new things it's a, whether that's people, environments, whatever the case is, and even new versions of ourselves, it's a prerequisite that we must let go of some old things. Like, it means a prerequisite. Biblically, it says that lay aside every weight that so easily entangles us. It's a practice. Like Jesus tells us biblically. He says, "I must go so that the Holy Spirit can come." There is a swap. There is a release and a receiving that has to happen, and it comes even with our mentalities of ourselves, our perspectives of ourselves, and also allowing the old version of us to die, and that we don't hold ourselves captive to an old version and keep replaying the old version of ourselves. And I think that one of the biggest challenges we have is that in your mind, the rerun of your past mistakes keeps playing. At some point, we got to hit stop. We got to eject that DVD. We got to eject that cassette tape, whatever you got. we gotta let go. We got to throw that version of ourselves away and tell people, hey, yeah, you may have known me. I tell people this all the time, man. If you ain't talked to me in 30 days, you don't know me. You know of me. You know of me. I'm updating every single day. Your iPhone needs updating. Your computer needs updating. Everything concerning you needs updating. We are the only thing that tries to remain the same. I hopped into the Range Rover the other day and it said, hey, your system needs to be updated. I had to sit there and I had to wait for the system to update. So we can have the update of the newest GPS, what streets are being built, where new houses and new addresses, and we have no new download from heaven concerning us. So we still have an old version of ourselves that we're looking through the lens of and not allowing ourselves to update. And we got to understand that there's a version of us that has to die to ourselves so that we can see ourselves the way God desires to see us.
Now you know that update, isn't it the truth? The other day, my truck, my Benz truck, I'm sorry, you know that I got to take good care of that truck. And malfunction. I'm like, well, why are you malfunctioning? What I do wrong? Let me tell you, my air pressures were so low that I had to call AAA out. He said, lady, you got to update and get this thing serviced, and you got to make sure it's functioning. He put air in that tire, those tires. He said you were so low, and I saw the little red light come on, but I had to get to this place, that place. I had things to do, and I was like, something wrong now. This car looked kind of low, and that truck sits up high. Yeah. And he said because your tire pressure. The car spoke to me over and over again, but I ignored it. Yeah. And then I put myself in danger. You've got to separate yourself from people and things that's going to put you in danger. That's it. And you're right. I have a friend who tells me, you don't know me. You know of me, but you don't know me.
You know of me.
So every 30 days.
You may follow me on social media. You may have talked to me years ago. You may talk to me months ago. But there's a new version of me that you have to get acquainted with. There's a new version. There's a new version of me that I'm getting acquainted with. I don't even know all of me. So
come on. You know, my daughter said that to me today. Aaron said, Mama, you don't know me. I was like, Aaron, help me to understand you. She's 22. She said, you have to take the time to understand where I am now. Because, I'm still trying to coddle her like she's 6 years old. I am past 80. But I got to let her grow. I got to let her find her way because she's updating herself. And I'm very proud of her, and Micah, she updates herself. And the thing, Micah called me one day. She says, Mama, I'm going to Dublin. I said, you going to Dublin, Ohio? She said, no, I'm going to Dublin, Ireland. I said, Ireland what? She said, Mama, I'm going to Ireland. I said, what you doing in Ireland? She's updating herself. She's moving into other paths. And I got to sit back and just watch the show. Listen, I got me some cassettes. I got me some 8-tracks. I got me some albums. Come on now. I got the vinyl. That was good. I think I'm going to bring all those props to the conference. Okay. All right.
Look, I got an illustration that I use about updated versions because I have all of these old cell phones. I have a BlackBerry, I have a flip Samsung, I have a Trio 650, I have a Nokia 6500, and I got all these old cell phones. And these old cell phones, the charger still works, the battery still works. I can plug those phones up. I can cut those phones on. But if I try to make a call, it will not connect to the tower because the system is so outdated.
Come on.
So they power on, They look like they're operational, but you cannot use them. And that's like a lot of things and a lot of people and a lot of places in our lives. They cut on, they're there, but they're not connecting to the tower. And in order to connect to the tower will require an update. It'll require an updated version to say that you cannot use this. And I think that we're still trying to hold on to a comfortability version of ourselves or a comfortability version of people that we have encountered, not understanding that they're updating daily, we're updating daily, and we got to give people the permission to change. We really, really do.
Because I've outgrown people, and people say, Kim, you're outgrowing me. Yes, because I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna have to. You both gonna have to write a chapter in my book. My book is called, brokenness to wholeness. But I got to get that chapter in there. You need an update. Kenny, come on, give me some closing remarks, and then Pastor AD, and then I'll close out. We want to thank everybody, but let's hear from Kenny, and then we'll go back to Pastor AD, and then to me.
Yeah, sure. This has been rich once again, and I just appreciate the opportunity to be able to be in this space. This is inspiring for me. This is informative for me, and I just appreciate just listening and learning tonight. And I know that everyone else has as well. I just wanted to say that I want to go back to what I said earlier about changing by choice, that each of us should spend some time as we transition into this new year about our lives, the direction of our lives, the control of our lives, where we want to land in terms of our lives. And then we need to be able to lay the foundation for making that happen. We have the ability to do that. I would encourage people to utilize every resource that's available to you. I think that it's great to be able to have electronic access to things, technological access to things. But one of the things that I think has been lost in our society today, we talk a lot about it, especially in the academic space, but in the world itself, we need mentors. We need people who we can sit under their wings. We need people who we can glean from their wisdom. I think one of the most effective and productive things I can do is to be able to talk to somebody who's more educated than me, who's more skilled than me, who's more knowledgeable than me, who's wiser than me, who's had experiences similar to things that I have questions about or things that I may be dealing with in my own life. Listen more than you talk. Spend time with these individuals and come prepared to ask questions, but don't talk as much as you listen, because these individuals, I think, have so much to share, and you have so much to be able to benefit from them in those experiences. So take full advantage of those opportunities.
I appreciate that, Brother Kenny. It's like, we getting ready for our big concert debut. And the more that you all hear from Pastor Adrian and Brother Kenny, our counselor, yes, he has his graduate degree in counseling. Don't listen. We're coming prepared for you in October. And let me say this, the more you see them, the more you hear from them, and they give you updates, okay? That 30-day updates. So I'm giving them a few weeks off, and then they're going to be back February, because we've got a lot of work to do, a lot of planning to do, and we're going to have a lot of things to bring to you. Pastor AD, your closing remarks, and then I'll close out.
Yeah, I'll just double down on what Ken Anderson said. I believe that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We need to listen more than we talk.
Come on.
And in order for change to really stick and for change to really be a thing, I think that we have to put time, effort, and energy into gleaning from those that have been there, done that, and got a t-shirt for it, because we could really learn from the experiences and the failures and the successes of other people, where we don't have to pay the same way that they paid. And I think that getting a good mentor, getting people that can, and yielding yourself of a level of vulnerability, because it takes vulnerability to say you need a mentor. It takes vulnerability to get a mentor, because that would suggest that I don't have all the answers. So I would just, in order for change to stay and stick, you need somebody that's going to literally push that and challenge you in your growth areas. So I double down on that, and I wholeheartedly agree.
I really do appreciate you both. I've learned a lot. I am expecting great things from my life. Self-care. I've been doing that, and making sure, my Micah, she's on me to stay fit and just fabulous. Okay. I just appreciate you both. We're very serious about this. And as a mental health specialist, my work and what I do is a ministry. I love what I do. I'm not burnt out. I love, the platform of Live to Be Well. This is nothing but God. But you have to embrace yourself and where you are and accept yourself. You've got to learn to love where you are and then build on that, build the layers of that. Because if not, you're going to have the domino effect. And one day you're going to allow someone, if not yourself, because we can be our own worst critic and enemy. You're going to push one of those blocks and it's all going to fall down. Protect your personal space, your self care, accept yourself, realize that you do deserve the best and that you can change by the help of the Holy Spirit through Jesus Christ. You are born and created in God's holy image, and you are wonderfully and graciously made and created. Listen, I want to say thank you to Adrian Davis. I appreciate you. I love you. Kenny Anderson, love you. I will see you back here in February. All right, be ready to throw down and do what we got to do. Let's push that cassette button and that 8-track. Self-care. I'm going to hear more about that self-care. And you know what? I got to tell you all this. We're going to be doing a photo op down in Huntsville. All right. We're doing a photo op for a few things, so we got to bring Brother Adrian down to Huntsville. We're coming that way because that's where ML6 got to be. So I got to go where my daughter is. So we are going to be doing some wonderful things. You're going to meet us in Huntsville, Detroit, LA. We're going to be doing a lot of things. So listen, we want to say Happy New Year to you. Have the best year. Have the best you ever had. It's up to you. My mother used to say, if it's going to be, then it's up to me. It's up to me. It's between God and I to make this thing happen. And you don't have to be afraid of that change. I'm Dr. Kim Logan-Nowlin, and I want to thank Adrian Davis, Kenny Anderson, and remember to always what, guys? Live to be well. Come on, y'all got to say it with me now. Come on. Live
to
be well. Come on now. Listen, we love you. Good night and Happy New Year. Good night.